Dear Father in heaven, please help me this morning as I share a few thoughts. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Good morning, friends. I notice that people get excited about different things. Some folks go bananas over college football, others hunting, others Hollywood movies, others landing on Mars. Just different things set people off. It excites them. Well, my wife, Darlene, is nuts about gardening. Now, here's a little plaque she had. I'll read it to you. And this is what it says. It hangs on her wall over her desk. It says, planting seeds and digging dirt, shining sun and buzzing bees, quick rain showers, veggies, herbs, fruits and flowers, sow, weed, water, and wait. Gardening. My wife is nuts about gardening. She didn't start out that way. When I met Darlene, she was a spiritualist. That means she was into astrology, reading palms, out-of-body experiences, the cult, witchcraft, reincarnation, Indian mysticism, a lot of things that are just very strange and very nebulous. When Darlene found gardening, she found something real in the place of all the smoke and mirrors.
So these jugs have seeds in them all. This is a technique called winter sowing that I just learned, and I'm very excited about it. So you can do this anytime during the winter. And so you just take like a milk jug or a water jug. I have a neighbor save theirs for us because we don't get these. And she gives me lots of them, and you just cut it in half, leaving a little hinge back here. And then you put some kind of soil, potting soil of some kind or seed starter inside. And you sprinkle your seeds in there and cover them up and make sure the soil is wet, and then you put that outside. And then they come up when the time is right. So I've heard people say that it works really well. And I noticed that inside this one, there's kale coming up already, so I'm pretty excited. And it makes me think back to the first garden that we had. And that was a real turning point in my life.
Practical gardening was slowly but surely pushing out the nebulous world of the New Age. And that's my wife.
We moved to the country on some land that my family left us. My parents were both dead, and they left us 20 acres. And there was a good garden spot there where it went way back to my grandparents or great-grandparents even. And so I decided I wanted to learn how to garden. So I got some books. And one of the books I got was called Getting the Most from Your Garden. And it was a real just exciting book to me because it had pictures in it. There were flowers and vegetables grown together. When I was growing up, my family had a garden, but it was kind of boring to me. We just did rows of this or that and the other, and I just went out and helped weed or plant or whatever, but I didn't really get interested in it. So being able to plant it myself was very exciting, so we bought seeds. And the book had back then the latest thing was double dig gardening. Now it's no dig, but back then double dig. And so I tried that double dig technique. I made 2 beds. They were like 4 by 20 each. And I tell you, I decided right then I didn't want to double dig anymore because you have to dig down for 2 feet. Well, you dig a foot of dirt off, and then you have to loosen the second foot, and then you have to put it all back in. It's a lot of work.
As for me, I was a city slicker. I was a crook, and I could see one thing about gardening. It was a lot of work, and I did not care for manual labor. When Darlene talked about double digging in the garden, I thought, what do you mean? You're going to dig off the whole top layer and then loosen up the soil, put it all back? And I thought, that's a mountain of work. Then she introduced the concept of going out into the woods and scraping up all the dirt, this rich soil, and bringing it into the garden. I said, Darlene, you want me to go out there and scrape the dirt out of the woods and bring it and put it into the garden? I thought, that's a lot of work. I was not interested in that.
Gardening was very exciting to me, and I just loved looking and watching the little seeds pop through the soil. And I would get up early every morning and I'd run out to the garden to see what was up that morning or what had changed, if something was fruiting or flowering. It was so exciting. I did that my whole gardening experience there for several years when we were in Alabama. That was in Mentone, Alabama. And it was just so neat. And I remember the first year I planted some marigold seeds. Now, I didn't know what they were supposed to look like, but it had a little picture on the back of the package. It had little leaves, and it showed they were kind of jagged. And so I was looking for those jagged leaves, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know that the first leaves were not true leaves, and they would look different. So I was going out there, and I'd pull I thought they were weeds. I was pulling them out. Fortunately, I planted a lot in each spot, and so one day I went out and I saw those little jagged leaves, but I could see it also had the little plain leaves underneath that. And so I thought, oh no, I've been pulling out the marigolds. But we still had plenty of marigolds that year. We had tomatoes, not so many, but we had enough. It was very exciting to me, and that just changed my life. It changed my whole experience with life of having that garden. And so it's the gardening bug. I've had it ever since then. I can't wait to start my garden in the spring. I can't wait to see the little plants coming up. It's just so wonderful. And it's wonderful living in the country and having a garden that not only provides food and exercise, but just enjoyment of being out in nature and seeing what God does.
But anyway, as the years passed by and the addiction grew, Darlene and I began to get a love for gardening, and that helped to push all the other crazy ideas out of our minds. You know, one of the lessons we got out in the garden, by the way, the gardening was very educational as well. It taught us things we would never have learned in the classroom. In fact, most of my classroom education was a failure. Didn't really learn anything. But in the garden, it's been one lesson after another, and it's a valuable education. I'd say it takes first place as far as lesson books in my life next to the Bible.
So what I'm working on today is pruning some blueberry bushes. Right now I'm just trying to get them off the pathway so we can walk through. Actually, I like to prune them in the summer better after they bear, but they're kind of overgrown right now because I forgot to prune them last summer. Well, I didn't forget. I didn't have time to prune them last summer, but I'm going to this year. So I'm just kind of working on pruning them off the pathway, getting out some dead stuff, and then I'll prune them again. And we had so many blueberries last year. I have a hard time pruning. I don't know. I don't like cutting things away. And I know you have to make it produce more and bigger berries, but I don't know. It's kind of a sad thing to me to cut it away. It's put all this effort into growing. It's got all these little buds on it already, and if I prune it in the summer, it's already born. There's no buds on it. So it seems a better time to me, and then I don't have such a anguish over cutting off flower buds.
You know, when it comes to pruning, there's a lesson. It's not an easy lesson. It could be painful at times, but it certainly is an education. Darlene is a reluctant pruner. She's reluctant to cut off limbs that are just full of buds. But when you prune them off, you prune off a blueberry limb that's full of buds, it doesn't hurt the plant, it helps it to grow. It produces more blueberries. It doesn't retard the growth. Same with people. You know, when you prune the ideas that will never bear fruit, you help the person, you don't hurt them. And God's in the business of pruning his people. You know, pruning the heart is sometimes a difficult experience, sometimes painful. I remember in 1996, we were living in a bamboo house out over a river in the southern part of the Philippines. No running water, couldn't speak the language, didn't understand the food, couldn't get to town and back, didn't know how to navigate. It was a real challenge. Darlene crying at night to go home. And I guess I cried a little bit too. But the Lord was helping to prune off those tendrils that were latched onto family and friends and the conveniences in America. And it was a very slow, painful process. But now as I look back, you know, after the pruning, you can look back and you say, well, that's just what I needed at just that time. But these unrealistic expectations were being cut off one by one.
They grow so well here too. These are the rabbit eye blueberries. Different ones grow better in different places, but rabbit eye are the best for this part of the country. And they can take, you know, if we get extremes in cold, they can take it. If we get extremes in heat, they can take it. They do pretty well in drought. We try to keep a leaf mulch down to help hold the moisture in. I haven't really done much watering, hardly any, since we've been here, and we've had some pretty good droughts.
Okay.
So yeah, they're pretty hardy.
Yeah, hardy blueberries.
Hardy blueberries.
And hardy wife.
All right, I'm going to go get to work, try to be a hearty husband.
Okay, sounds good.
You know, the garden is a classroom to learn about patience.
Okay, so what I have here are radish seed pods. So what I'm going to do, I have this on a cutting board. It's a nice hard surface, and I'm just putting just a towel over it. And then I just roll this with a dough roller, like this, so it crunches them up. But I just keep rolling until they're all broken up. I've actually grown a lot of types of radishes, and so this is from many different kinds. I just collect them all and put them together and just plant them. If you have winter radishes and spring radishes, you can separate those. Some people like to just grow the spring ones in the spring, but I like to save seed, so I grow also some winter ones in the spring to save seed from. Those are bigger and they take longer to grow. So usually 30 days for spring radishes, 60 for fall radishes.
Radishes. Some radishes take 30 days. Some radishes take 60 days. Either way, it's not a long wait. But when it comes to garlic, you plant it in November and you harvest it the next spring. It takes a little more patience. Same with people. People take a while to bloom and bear fruit. You know, the divine gardener knows how to tend the garden of the heart, and we're sometimes just so full of impatience. We want the people to bloom and bear fruit. We want to see the harvest the day after we plant the seed. I thank God He has patience. Isaiah 40:31, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting upon God is not always easy, but it's always essential. So the garden, what a classroom to learn the essential lessons of life. So my dear friends, if you're cooped up in the city, if you've got a lot of strange ideas in your mind, the place to go to get sane, the place to go to get straightened out, the place to go to get food, get exercise, get peace of mind, it's the GARDEN, the University of Gardening. God bless you, my friends. You have a nice day.
Oh!
Sorry, darling.